Olin would have won. And the worst thing is that the most important chapter in his next book won't be written. Of course, the readers won't know the truth. His lawyer and the author of the book won't know either. The lawyer probably won't know either, but he'll know. But the elevator didn't work. He reached out to the cigarette behind his ear and made a reckless move that he couldn't remember. He threw his shirt and started moving towards room 1408. 11 minutes of recording on the small recorder. This is the most important recording that Mike Insulin left after he made the mistake in room 1408, which lasted about 70 minutes. The recorder was a little burned, but it wasn't completely damaged. The strangest thing in the recording was the lack of Mike's comments and its oddity. The recorder was a gift from his wife 5 years ago. At that time, during his exploratory visits, he was used to taking 5 cards with him and 5 tapes to mark his notes and a leather bag full of bullet wounds. But as time went by until he entered room 1408, the number changed. He took 1 bullet, 1 tape, and 5 tapes of cassette tapes to record the tape for 90 minutes. In addition to the tape, he put in the recorder before he left his apartment. He found out that the small recorder was a gift from his wife. He discovered that voice recording to record his notes was easier than writing, specifically to record important moments, some of which were really enjoyable, like the sound of a butterfly that suddenly flew in his direction while he was visiting Gertzby Castle, for example, the day he screamed like a child entering a haunted house for the first time. His friends loved this story a lot. The small record player worked much more than writing, especially if he wanted to record events like the night he spent in the cemetery and the rain that never stops. It was impossible for him to write notes in such circumstances. Over the years, and with his exploratory journeys, this small record player became his friend. Until now, he has never recorded a testimony to real events. But he was not surprised that his feelings towards the small record player reached a point where he considered it a friend. All artists are like this. The writer is attached to a certain pen or pencil, even if it is worn out. The cleaning lady is attached to a certain cleaning tool. The microphone was like a garlic belt and a cross for the blood donors, although he never saw a real resemblance to this device. His problem with the room 1408 began before he even entered it. The first observation was that the room door was slightly tilted to the left. The directors of horror movies thought about this when they tilted the camera a little to reflect the psychological stress in the film. The view of the door gave him another impression. They thought about your feeling when you are on a boat in a stormy sea, when the doors are tilted to the right and left, to the front and back, until you start feeling the rotation in your mind and in your stomach. But he did not feel the rotation because of the shape of the door. No, he did feel it, just a little. He bent over and took the recording device out of the bag. His feeling of rotation almost disappeared as soon as he looked away from the door. He took the device and started getting ready to record this moment. The room door 1408 sends me a special greeting. The door seems to be slightly tilted to the left, but he only said, "The door," and that's it. If you listen to this tape, you will hear the word door, and then a click sound when the recording device stopped because the door was not tilted. The door was perfectly level in the correct position in front of it. Mike turned around and looked at the room door 1409 on the other side of the road. Then he turned around again and looked at the door 1408. The 2 doors are level, white with a number written in gold and the corner of a golden door. The 2 doors are completely straight. He bent over and took his bag out with the same hand that he was holding the recording device with. He put his other hand with the key towards the door and left his place. The door was tilted again, this time slightly to the right. "What is this nonsense?" he muttered. While the feeling of the circle began again in his stomach, he remembered his only trip on a ship a few years ago, and he remembered his feeling of the circle. He remembered that he stayed in the bed that was shaking right and left all the time, feeling that he was about to fall. All because of Olin. This is exactly what he wanted and succeeded in. He prepared you psychologically. He tricked you with the terrifying noises. Surely if he could see you now, he would have died of laughter. Surely if he... And his thoughts were cut off. Mike noticed that there was a possibility that Olin was really watching him now. He looked behind the door and towards the elevator, and again he noticed that as soon as he took his eyes off the door, His feeling of the circle ended. Above the elevator door, Mike noticed something he had expected: a small surveillance camera. There is someone who is one of the workers in the place. Surely he is watching him now. And Mike seemed to be sure that Olin was sitting next to this person watching him, and the two of them are laughing. "I'll teach him how to come here and bring me a lawyer." And the security guard who was sitting next to him behind the surveillance screen responded to him. He looks terrified. He looks like he's the ghost. And all of this while he still hasn't opened the door. "You won over me, boss." "No, I won't let them feel that they won over me." I entered the house of Rebli, the resident. I slept in the room where they killed him. I slept. I went to sleep. I spent the night next to the grave of Jeffrey Dahmer, and the 2 nights at Lovecraft's grave personally. I brushed my teeth in the bathroom where Sir David Smith killed his twin brother. No, no, no. I'm not afraid of the stories of the ghosts, ladies and gentlemen. When he looked at the door again, the door was back to normal. He reached out his hand and put the key in the lock, and he looked around. The door opened. Mike took a step into the room. The door didn't do what it does in these situations. It didn't move from its position and close behind it like it does in horror movies. Dark darkness in the room, except for the faraway lights from the nearby building windows. The lights came from the window glass of the room. Mike reached out his hand and looked for the light buttons. He found the buttons, and he pressed them. Light was sent from the fingers hanging from the ceiling, surrounded by crystal, and from long sparkles in the corner of the room. The window was above the office. Anyone who sits and writes in this place can, during their break, look out of the window while writing or jump out of the window if they feel the need to jump out of the window. Mike put down his bag and closed the door. He pressed the record button, and the red light in the device lit up. According to Mr. Olin, there are 6 people who jumped out of the window I'm looking at now. But I don't intend to jump from the 14th floor. I mean the 13th floor. Apart from that, there's a metal frame on the window, outside, for protection. Oh, security first. Room 1408 can be considered a small wing in the hotel. The room I'm in now has 2 chairs, a sofa, a desk, a closed closet with a TV, and maybe a minibar. The carpet on the floor is simple, not as luxurious as the Persian carpet in the director's office. The walls are covered with wallpapers, and what's that? The record player will hear a click sound in these moments because Mike stopped recording again. The comments on the record are generally the same pattern, broken pieces. This is unusual, and it hasn't happened in the 150 records he recorded before. His voice was also clearly out of focus. It's not the voice of a person who works, and he's looking at his notes as if he were a distracted person, and he's talking to himself without noticing he's doing this. These disturbing recordings, and the lack of focus and the noise of his voice, make most people who hear the record unable to continue to the end. A feeling of unrest. A feeling that the person who recorded the record is losing his mind, or at least losing his connection to reality. The broken, distorted words give the feeling that something is happening. What Mike noticed before he stopped recording were the pictures hanging on the walls of the room. 3 pictures. A picture of a woman in her 20s, wearing a pink dress, standing on the stairs. A picture of a religious ship, a painting of a silent nature, island. A fruit, painted in an ugly orange color. An apple, an orange, and a banana. The 3 pictures are highlighted. 3 distorted pictures. He was hanging the pictures on the wall, but why? What's so strange about the 3 distorted pictures? The door being distorted, yes, it's strange, but the door wasn't distorted, it was just moving. His eyes were deceiving him, nothing more. The picture of the woman standing on the stairs, tilted to the left, and the picture of the ship as well. The picture of the British Navy watching the floating fish in the sea. The silent nature, which seemed to Mike to be drawn in the light of a scorching sun, was tilted to the right. Mike was not suffering from depression, but he was adjusting the picture. Looking at them while they were tilted like this was like hitting them with a pickaxe. And that wasn't surprising. As soon as a person is prepared for the feeling of a pickaxe, he will feel it. When he was traveling, he was told that if he could resist for a while, he would get used to it. Mike didn't travel far enough to get used to the feeling, nor did he care to travel. The picture's glass was covered with a layer of dust. His hard time with the glass of the silent nature drew 2 lines on the dust. The dust had a greasy, sticky touch, as if it was silk at the aging stage. That's what he remembered, but that's not a note on a tape. I already know how the silk touch is getting worse. He adjusted the picture and took a step back to look at them. The picture of the woman in her 20s next to the door leading to the bedroom. The picture of the ship to the north of the office. Finally, the ugly picture of the fruits next to the TV cabinet. Some of him thought that when he looked at them again, he would find them tilted again, or that they would move and tilt, and he would look at them. Things like this happen in movies like The House of the Snowy Man, or a scene from a series about the aurora, for the picture remained fixed on its state as he adjusted it. He thought that even if this had happened, he wouldn't be surprised, nor would this be a sign of anything strange. That's just the nature of things. He touched the cigarette behind his ear and thought that the smokers he had stopped would stay there for a long time and would want to go back. These pictures are hanging on the wall since Nixon was president. Of course, they will want to tilt again. He thought that these pictures had been here for a long time. These pictures are hanging on the wall from the time Nixon was president. Of course, it will be a long time ago. He thought these pictures would have been here for a long time. If you lift them now from the walls, you will see the color of the wallpaper a little lighter than the rest of the wall. Or maybe you will see insects running away quickly, like what happens when you lift a big stone from the ground. This idea was disturbing and annoying for him. Imagine insects, white and blind, coming out of these pictures when he moves them. He put the tape recorder in front of him and pressed the button. He said,